Well, welcome everyone to this press conference for the Trilateral Defence Ministers meeting between the United States, Australia and Japan. I'd like to welcome Secretary Austin and welcome my good friend Gen Nakatani, the Minister for Defence in Japan. It really is an honour to have both Gen and Lloyd here in Australia for this meeting, and specifically here in Darwin, a place which is a defence town, and it is so significant in terms of Australia's force posture by virtue of the geostrategic significance of Northern Australia, and Darwin is very much the capital of Northern Australia. This is the most senior visit by an official of the American government since President Obama came here in 2011 to announce the Marine rotation. Prime Minister Abe was here in 2018, but Minister Nakatani's visit to Darwin today is the first time that we've had a Japanese Defence Minister come to Darwin, and there is a huge significance in that. And befitting the significance of this meeting and the visits of both Secretary Austin and Minister Nakatani to Australia, the outcomes of today's trilateral meeting have been very profound. Today we are announcing that there will be regular deployments of Japan's Amphibious Rapid Deployment Brigade to Australia. And that will have a particular focus on cooperating with the Australian Defence Force and the United States Marines when they are here as part of the Marine rotation. This is going to build interoperability between our two countries, between our three countries, I should say, but it is a very important statement to the region and to the world about the commitment that our three countries have in working with each other. Today, we are also announcing that our three countries will commit to consulting with each other in respect of regional security issues and contingencies. The significance of that is that it provides a substance and a structure to the trilateral meeting of our three countries, which has not been there before. And it represents the ambition that all of us have about taking this architecture of our three countries even further. Today we're also announcing that our three countries will be cooperating with India, and India, part of this announcement obviously, in increased maritime domain awareness activities. All of us are maritime nations, including India, and maritime domain awareness in the oceans around our respective countries is fundamentally important to the national security of each of our four nations, and that the four of us will now work much more closely together in respect of those activities, again, is deeply significant. Finally, the last point that I want to make amongst a very significant list of outcomes which has been provided to you is that our three countries are looking at every opportunity that we can find to participate in each other's exercises within the region. And there would be more than a dozen exercises where there is opportunities for us to work more closely together, and we are taking those opportunities. But just one of them is exercise Puk Puk, which is a bilateral exercise between Australia and Papua New Guinea. Next year, in exercise Puk Puk 25, both Japan and America will participate, and it is an example of how our three countries are working together in that instance, in an exercise which is profoundly important for Papua New Guinea. That was interesting. Hopefully you can still see us. That's an example of how that exercise is really important for Papua New Guinea, but it is the way in which our three countries are working together to build interoperability amongst ourselves, but to provide for the collective security of the region in which we all live, and to provide an assertion of the global rules-based order which all of our countries are so deeply committed to. Lloyd, again, it really has been an honour to have you here today. Finally, I just want to say something in relation to Lloyd. I've worked very closely with Lloyd Austin over the last 2.5 years. I've said this on many occasions. Of all my counterparts around the world, Lloyd Austin is the person with whom I have met the most, have the closest of relationships, but I'm really aware I'd be one of 20, 30 defence ministers around the world who would say the same thing. And that speaks volumes about the effort that Lloyd Austin has put in over the now near 4 years that he has served as the United States Secretary of Defence. Lloyd has been a champion for the global rules-based order. And in that, he has been a champion for peace around the world. He has been a close friend of Australia, I know of Japan as well, a person who has been deeply active in our region. I think this is his 12th visit to the region. But I know, as we were talking last night, that his most recent meeting where both Gann and Lloyd met with each other was in Naples, I think, as part of the G7 Defence Ministers meeting. Lloyd's been committed to the Indo-Pacific. He's been committed to Eastern Europe. He has played the role that you would expect of a Secretary of Defence of America as a global power. And Lloyd, we really wish you the best for the future. Thank you for your friendship, but thank you for the steadfast way in which you have supported the bilateral relationship between Australia and the United States, but also the security of the region in which we all live, but the security of the world. We will be staying in touch, but we will miss you deeply. Lloyd.
Deputy Prime Minister Marles, Richard, it's great to see you again, and thanks for those generous comments. I guess if I were truly a wise man, I would stop here, right? But I really appreciate it. And thanks for welcoming us to Darwin. Minister Nakatani, it's a pleasure to see you again as well. You know, this is the 4th time that I've participated in this trilateral format as Secretary of Defense. And over the past 4 years, our 3 democracies have accomplished a lot together. We've announced trilateral cooperation on F-35s. We're working to integrate Japan into U.S.-Australia force posture cooperation in Australia. And Japan and Australia have exercised their reciprocal access agreement through deployments to each other's countries. Today, more than ever, we're taking concrete actions that will deepen our trilateral cooperation. And the 3 of us are here to see the results firsthand. Darwin is a focal point for our expanding trilateral relationship, and our bond is delivering real security, deterrence, and interoperability. Today we discuss the next steps to expand our exercises and training. And Japan's commitment to annual trilateral amphibious training in the Indo-Pacific demonstrates our momentum, including with the Marine Rotational Force Darwin here in Northern Australia. We're also elevating key bilateral exercises into trilateral exercises. And Australia will now participate in ground force exercises Yamasakura and Orient Shield, along with joint exercises such as Keen Edge and Keen Sword. And starting in 2025, we'll increase the complexity of our trilateral exercises, including Southern Jackaroo and Talisman Sabre. Looking further out, Talisman Sabre 2027 will include an air and missile defense live-fire event. And taken together, this is major progress, and it will help ensure a more stable and prosperous region. Beyond these exercise milestones, today we welcome Japan's increased participation in U.S.-Australia force posture activities. Through this work, we're eager to deepen Japan's cooperation with the Marine Rotational Force Darwin. And we'll continue to grow our trilateral intelligence sharing and to increase our surveillance and reconnaissance activities. Today, I'm also pleased to support Australia's increased participation in the U.S.-Japan Bilateral Information Analysis Cell. The intelligence capabilities and professionalism of Australia's forces will be a force multiplier, and that will advance our goals for a secure and peaceful Indo-Pacific. And finally, we're excited to build advanced capabilities with Japan and Australia. We're moving forward with our trilateral research, development, test, and evaluation projects arrangement, focusing on composite aerospace materials and autonomous systems. In the same vein, we're deepening our discussions on cooperative combat aircraft and autonomy. And we're also discussing opportunities to boost cooperation with Japan on AUKUS Pillar 2 projects. And we're committed to working together in these areas. And Deputy Prime Minister Marles and Minister Nakatani, thanks for your leadership and your commitment to security in the Indo-Pacific. I am absolutely proud of all that we've accomplished together, and together we're continuing to build on the progress our three countries have achieved over the past 4 years. And I look forward to continuing to grow our partnership and to endure well into the future. And thanks very much, and Minister Nakatani, over to you.
Hi. I am Ken Nakatani, but I'm not a general, not a period, my name. 日本語で行いますので、どうぞトランシーバーをお付けください。はじめに、リチャード、ロイド、そして、本会談の開催に尽力をされた皆様方に、感謝御礼を申し上げます。ここはインド洋と太平洋の結節点でありまして、米軍がローテーション展開をするオーストラリア北部の要衝でありますダーウィンにおきまして、日米オーストラリアの防衛省会談が開催されるのは初めてでありまして、日米豪連携の象徴として非常に意義深く感じるところでございます。日米豪は同志国連携の中核でありまして、自衛隊、米軍、オーストラリア軍の共同能力を着実に高め、そして平素から緊急事態に至るまであらゆる状況におきまして実効的に連携ができるようにすることが重要であります。こうした観点から私から日米豪防衛協議体 TDC というメカニズムを提案をし、そしてオースティン長官とマールズ大臣の同意をいただきました。このメカニズムというのは、まず閣僚級協議の定期開催による方向性の指示、そして政策サイド、運用サイドによる実務者協議によるフォローアップ、第3に地域の緊急事態に関する机上演習 TTX、これの実施などを通じまして、日米豪防衛協力の実効性向上に寄与することを目的とするものでございます。また、抑止力、対処力を強化するための取り組み推進のために、オーストラリアで水陸両用訓練をはじめ、米軍戦力体制イニシアティブ、これへの我が国の関与、そして強化、次に売薬へのオーストラリア軍のさらなる関与に向けて取り組んでいくということ、そして最後にネットワーク化された防空ミサイル防衛アーキテクチャについて、ミサイル脅威への対処等の情報共有の在り方について議論をしていくことなどで一致をいたしました。ネットワーク化された防空ミサイルの防衛アーキテクチャでございます。そして今回設立をいたしました TDC、日米防衛協議体のメカニズムも活用しまして、日米豪防衛当局間であらゆるレベルでの緊密に連携をしてまいります。また、日米、日豪の2国間の協力、日米豪の3国間の協力、そして 地域の同志国との重層的な連携を強化をしていく所存でございます。私の方から以上です。Thank you.
Great. So I've got a list of questioners here. We are short on time. We're not going to get through them all. 3 lots of 3, but we will do our best. So we're starting with Matthew Knott of the 9 Papers.
No, Mike. Yell it out.
You yell it out, yeah.
To Secretary Austin and Minister Miles, given the very well-documented problems with the US submarine production lines, how worried should Australians be that they won't be able to receive Virginia-class submarines from the United States? And should Australia, as we're looking ahead to a new administration, have to be prepared to pay more than what we've already committed to boost the production lines there? You know, is AUKUS so embedded that it will survive a change of administration?
I'll go first, Richard. I'm confident that we're going to be able to provide the capabilities that we set out to provide. Now, we recognize that there are challenges in the industrial base, and we're doing things to address those challenges. We're investing more so that we can speed up the production to meet our objectives going forward. And I've met with the leadership of the companies that are producing submarines, and I'm encouraged by what they're doing and their focus to get this done, and they will get it done. From a production standpoint, we're going to continue to do the right things, to do the things that are necessary to ensure that we can meet our objectives. And I would point out that we've met every benchmark that we've set out for ourselves with AUKUS to this point. And we have a very well-structured management system and we converse with each other frequently on how we're doing and what the challenges are. And I see commitment from all 3 countries to get this done. And I would also say that I've seen in the United States bipartisan support in our Congress for AUKUS. We recognize that this is a generational capability that will make a significant difference in promoting security and stability in the Indo-Pacific region.
So let me start off by saying what he said. And I think what Lloyd has articulated does go to the question that you asked, Matthew, in respect of where America's production is up to. And so we do have a sense of confidence about the fulfilment of the timelines that we articulated when we announced the optimal pathway back in March of last year. But perhaps go to the last point of your question, is AUKUS deeply embedded? I think the answer to that is yes, and again, Lloyd alluded to it, but we have seen in the United States, across the political spectrum, this time last year, legislation passed the US Congress with the support of Democrats, Republicans, Trump Republicans, which saw, for example, the legislative underpinning of the sale of Virginia-class submarines to Australia. It had the creation of a seamless defence industrial base between our 2 countries. But the important point was it was supported across the board. Lloyd and I were having this conversation last night. This, and as Lloyd just alluded to now, this is a multi-decadal program. Just as the alliance has been a multi-decadal relationship between our 2 countries, that can happen. The basis of the alliance is shared values, but it's a shared strategic objective and shared strategic advantage, and AUKUS is in the strategic interest of both the United States and Australia. And that's the fundamental here, as it is for Britain. And so we are seeing AUKUS survive change of governments in Australia, in the United Kingdom, and it will happen in America as well. This is really deeply embedded across the political spectrum in all our 3 countries because it is in the strategic interest of all our 3 countries. Hayley from CNN.
Yes, thank you so much. Secretary Austin, first, President Zelensky said, I believe yesterday, that he believes the Trump administration will end the war in Ukraine faster. Do you believe that this administration did not move fast enough in its efforts to end the war, and sort of what is your response to that? And for Ministers Nakatani and Marles, have either of you spoken with President-elect Trump or his team, and sort of what are your expectations, I guess to follow up on that last question, of this relationship moving forward within the administration?
Thanks for the question, Haley. It goes without saying that based upon our support and the support of some 50 other countries, we have put Ukraine in a place where it was able to defend itself, defend its sovereignty against the largest military in Europe for 2.5 years. And so if you look at the broader picture here, as you've heard me say before, Putin has not achieved one strategic objective in 2.5 years, over 2.5 years. And he's lost a lot of people in his misguided endeavor. So this war could end today. It could have ended 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago if Putin would have decided to make the right decision and pull his forces out of Ukraine. This is an unjustified and unprovoked invasion. And so all of us would want to see this resolved soon, sooner versus later. But again, we want to make sure that Ukraine is in the best position to protect its interest, however it's resolved in the future. And I believe that, as you've heard me say before, at the end of the day, it will be resolved through negotiations. So, again, Putin could end this today, and he should end it today, because it is an unprovoked and unjustified invasion.
Okay.
はい、ウクライナにつきましては、我が国は積極的に支援をいたしております。また我が国にとって米国が唯一の同盟国でもあり、また豪州は米国に次ぐ密接な協力関係を有している国でございます。で、オーカスの第2の柱がございますが、これは米英豪の3カ国との協力でありまして、同盟国、同志国との間の連携は先進技術から支えるものでありまして、我が国と日英豪の3カ国の共通の能力を強化をし、そして地域の抑止力、対処力を強力にするものでございます。今年の9月には、オーカスの首脳、そして国防大臣声明におきまして、我が国との防衛装備、厳密に言いますと、海洋無人機システムに関する協力の機会を模索すると発表されております。その上で、本年の10月にオーストラリアで開催されました海洋無人機のシステム等に関する多国間の実験演習であるこの行事にですね、防衛庁の専門家等を派遣をいたしました。今回の会談で日英豪3カ国のこうした進展に歓迎するとともに、今後とも日米豪の協力を増すことによって、この世界の平和に対しても貢献していきたいと思っております。
Haley, the Prime Minister Albanese spoke with President Trump in the few days subsequent to the election. In answer to your question about what we expect from the incoming Trump administration, Australia's interest, but it's not just Australia, is so bound up in American global leadership. American global leadership since the end of the Second World War is really what has underpinned the establishment of a global rules-based order by which differences between countries can be resolved not in accordance with power and might, but in accordance with the rule of law. Why that is in the interests of a country like Australia is because it gives us agency. Most countries in the world are obviously not of the size of the United States. Having a system which enables disputes to be worked out in accordance with international law actually is what builds the sovereignty of a nation like Australia. So what we look to always in respect of the United States is that global leadership. Now, we are confident that we will see that from the incoming Trump administration. When you look at what those who have been associated with President Trump's campaign have said in respect of America's place in the world, it speaks to American leadership. When you look at the appointments that President Trump has made for his incoming administration, these are people who have spoken to American leadership. And it's not just by word, although it is by word, it's by action. I referenced earlier, when you look at what happened going through the United States Congress last year in terms of Australia's key equity in our alliance with the United States, which is the AUKUS arrangement, that was supported across the board by people who would identify themselves with President Trump. So we are confident that a future Trump administration will stand by America's place in the world and American leadership, and that is fundamentally what Australia, and for that matter, I think the world needs to see, but we are really confident that we will see it from President Trump and his administration. I hope I'm saying this right. Inada Kiyoshi from NHK.
Yes, Kiyoshi from NHK News. I'm asking in Japanese. 中谷大臣にお伺いしますけれども、先般の大統領選挙を受けてですね、アメリカでは政権が変わる一方、インド太平洋地域では中国が活発な軍事活動を続けて安全保障環境は厳しさを増しております。日本、オーストラリア双方の同盟国であるアメリカがこの地域に関与し続けていくために、両国としてそれぞれどのように取り組み、またトランプ政権に対して働きかけていくのでしょうか。またこのアジア太平洋地域の中でですね、どういった役割を果たしていきたいとお考えでしょうか。
はい、我が国にとりまして、米国は唯一の同盟国でございます。日米同盟を緊密に機能をさせて対応し、またオーストラリアは米国に次ぐ緊密な協力関係を構築をしている国でございます。従いまして日米豪、これは同志国の連携の中核となる関係でありますので、インド太平洋地域においては実践的な防衛協力を行う上で最も潜在力のある枠組みとして認識をいたしております。この地域の安全保障環境が非常に厳しくて、そして複雑になっている中で、やはり地域としての抑止力、そして対処力の強化に向けまして、日米豪、これは自衛隊、米軍、オーストラリア軍の共同能力を着実に高める、そして平素から緊急事態に至るまで、あらゆる事態に切れ目のない、こういった実行力においての連携ができるようにですね、協力を強化をするということが必要であります。こうした観点から今般、日米豪3カ国によります防衛協議体 TDC、これを設立することといたしました。このメカニズムによりまして、閣僚級会議の定期開催、そして政策サイド、運用サイドの実務者の協議、そして地域の緊急事態に対する机上の演習の実施などですね、日米豪防衛協力の実効性の向上に寄与をすることを目的としたものでございますので、今般設立した新たなメカニズムの日米豪 TDC も活用しながら、米国の次期政権との間で強固な信頼、協力関係を構築をいたしまして、引き続き日米豪の連携を進化させていくとともに、地域の同志国との重層的な連携を強化をしてまいりたいと考えております。
Ben Packham, Australia.
Thank you. To Secretary Austin, you're a decorated 4-star general. You've been to the region 12 times as Secretary, I believe. Do you believe Peter Hegseth is qualified to lead the Pentagon, and can we have faith in him to maintain US commitments in this part of the world? And to Mr Miles, Andrew Hastings says he relishes the prospect of working with Mr Hegseth. Hegseth is a very different kind of person to Secretary Austin. What about you? Do you think you can work with him?
Thanks for the question. I would just highlight that it's the prerogative of the president-elect to nominate whoever he deems appropriate to serve on his cabinet. As far as DOD is concerned, we remain focused on a smooth and an effective transition to the next administration. Beyond that, I would say I'm really proud of the things that this administration has accomplished over the last 4 years in terms of what we've done in this region to strengthen alliances and to work with countries that share the vision of a free and open Indo-Pacific. And again, our focus will remain on effecting a smooth and orderly transition. I would just say that this is a large enterprise, DoD, and it often involves making life and death decisions on a near daily basis, and accounting for and taking care of some 2.7 million soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Guardians, and really remaining focused on protecting the country and protecting our interests around the globe.
Ben, in answer to your question, I too look forward to building a relationship with Pete Hegseth. The role of Secretary of Defense of the United States is a huge global role, and it's an enormous honour for Pete Hegseth to be being put forward by President Trump to fulfil that role. I think we've seen around the world today people coming from a range of different places and perspectives to occupy posts in government. And that breadth of experience it can be really important. I mean, obviously, I don't carry any military experience personally into the role that I undertake as Australia's Minister for Defence. So, in no sense am I going to say that it's that represents a prerequisite. And I think Pete Hegseth is somebody who will have an enormous challenge ahead of him, because that is what it is to be the Secretary of Defence. Everything that I've heard about Pete Hegseth since his name became public is, in the context of becoming the Secretary of Defence, has been positive. And I approach the prospect of getting to know Pete Hegseth and working with him with enormous optimism. Noah from Defence News.
Right here. Thank you. First off, to Secretary Austin, can you give us an assessment of how effective you think North Korean troops that have deployed to fight in Kursk have been fighting alongside the Russian military? Also, your sense of whether it will be possible to draw down the remaining replenishment aid for Ukraine before this administration ends in January. And to the non-general, Minister Nakatani, could you please explain whether Japan, like the Philippines, is interested in purchasing or rotating in a mid-range capability like the U.S. has put through the Balikatan exercise in the Philippines this year? And the Army Secretary suggested this could be helpful for the U.S. and Japan if they went forward. Do you have any comment on that?
Thanks for your questions. First of all, regarding the effectiveness of the DPRK troops, we've not seen much fighting from them at this point, but I am, my belief is that we'll see that soon. Now, I think that a force like this will undergo the challenges that we would expect, in that there's a language issue that they have to overcome in working with their Russian counterparts. There's not been the same kind of training and development that we've seen amongst our allies here, and we were just out visiting our troops today and talking about interoperability. Interoperability has something to do with having the same type of equipment, but it's a lot to do with understanding common policies and procedures, and understanding and trusting the people that you're working alongside. Now, these forces have not worked together before, based upon the language barrier, based upon a lack of common procedures, lack of common equipment. You would expect that there will be some friction. In terms of how effective they'll be is left to be seen. In terms of whether or not we'll be able to deliver, all of the equipment or security assistance that we're authorized to deliver before the end of the year, we're going to keep doing what we've done from the very beginning, and that is rushing very much needed security assistance to Ukraine as fast as we can, and we're going to focus on those things continue to focus on those things that they need the most, and we'll make as big a difference as possible with the time that we have remaining, and hopefully we'll see continued support, bipartisan support for Ukraine from our Congress going forward.
フィリピンへの協力等につきましては、米国とフィリピンとの協力関係の中で、非常にフィリピンの安全保障にとっては大事なことであるというふうに認識をいたしております。現在のところ、日本がこれに参加するということは特に考えておりません。
Muriyama Takuya of Kyoto News.
共同通信の村山です。
はい。
中谷大臣に伺います。
はい。
インド太平洋地域では北朝鮮をはじめとしてミサイルの懸念が高まっています。3カ国には共通の装備品もありますが、相互の連携や情報共有など具体的にどう進めていくかお考えでしょうか。また防空だけでなくターゲティング面での連携をどのように進めていくかお考えでしょうか。
はい。北朝鮮に関しまして、近年ですね、我が国周辺におきまして、極超音速兵器などのミサイル関連技術、また一度に、たくさん同時に撃つという飽和攻撃などの実践的なですね、ミサイル運用能力が飛躍的に向上しておりまして、質量ともにミサイル戦力が著しく増強されているというふうに認識をしております。そのような中で、ミサイルの発射も繰り返されておりまして、我が国へのミサイル攻撃が現実の脅威となってきております。こうした状況を踏まえまして、我が国は国家防衛戦略に基づいて、我が国自身の努力として、ミサイル防衛能力と反撃能力、これを組み合わせて、ミサイル攻撃を抑止をする体制を整備をするということにいたしております。また、こうした戦後最も厳しく複雑な安全保障環境に直面する中で、我が国自身の防衛の努力のみならずですね、同盟国、同志国との協力連携が必要とされておりまして、価値、戦略目標を共有し、同志国連携の中核であります日、米、豪、この間では、それぞれの戦略を連携して実行に移し、共同の能力を着実に高めていくということが重要であります。今般、日米豪のミサイル防衛協力であります、ネットワーク化された防空能力、そして防空ミサイル防衛アーキテクチャ、これについては、ミサイル供与の対象等の情報共有の在り方を検討することで一致をいたしました。今後、こうした取り組みを通じまして、自衛隊、米軍、オーストラリア軍、これの相互運用性の向上を図っていきたいと考えております。また、お尋ねのターゲティングの面につきましては、あくまでも自衛隊、米軍、オーストラリア軍が、各々独立をした指揮系統の下で、情報収集も含めて、作戦のさまざまな場面において協力をしていくということになります。
Deployment from 2027. This is on top of our long-standing arrangements with communication facilities such as Pine Gap. How central is Australia to the US Indo-Pacific war planning for the region? And for the three of you, this commitment to consult, how would it operate, for example, in an emergency over Taiwan?
Well, it's key that Australia has been an essential partner to us for many, many years. You may have heard me say before that I served 41 years in uniform. Almost 6 years of that was in a combat zone. And everywhere I went, that was a tough place to be. There was an Aussie there. And so that relationship is invaluable. We share the same values. We treasure each other's professionalism, and we've worked together on and off over decades. And we expect that that work will continue going into the future. We share a common vision of a free and open Indo-Pacific. And that's really important to us, but it's also important to all of our partners and allies in the region. And we're going to continue to work together to promote that common interest. So Australia is a valuable partner today. It will be a valuable partner or ally going forward. And it has been over the years, over the decades, a really reliable and effective ally that's just been remarkable in my view. So.
Thanks, Lloyd. The commitment to consult in respect of regional defence issues is just that. And this is across the spectrum of those issues. It could be an HADR event, a cyclone, an earthquake, a tsunami, where defence forces need to coordinate in terms of providing assistance. It could be in relation to the kind of work that we've done in terms of ensuring that we're bringing stability to countries within our region, such as what occurred with Solomon Islands back in the early 2000s, or the regional mission that we led in Timor-Leste. What this is that no matter what that circumstance is, that the three of us will consult each other. And the significance of the announcement that we are making today is it puts substance and structure into this relationship. It really is a step forward in terms of the way in which the three of us will operate in a collective and coordinated way. And the way to read this is to be thinking about it in terms of the ambition that the three of us are bringing to the table for this grouping. We do see, as countries with shared values, with capability and with a commitment to the rules-based order within our region, that there is enormous benefit to each of us in terms of our national interests, that there's enormous strategic benefit in us working more closely together, and that's what the commitment to consult means. Okay. Brandy from Defense Scoop.
Hi, thank you for doing this. Are y'all exploring new commitments for basing U.S. hypersonic weapons in Australia or Japan down the line? Are your governments open to that? And broadly, can you speak to any new or concrete examples of how this agreement will enable your nations to deter China in ways you haven't been able to before?
Do you want me to?
Sure.
Well, look, in terms of... I wouldn't go into specifics in respect of capabilities beyond what we've announced. This is about the three of us working together. It's not about other countries or any other particular country. It is about the three of us as countries which are democracies, which are committed to the rules-based order, working closely together to assert that. And just as I said in answer to the last question, what you can read out of today's meeting is an ambition that the three of us share to build the way in which we work together. And we've had deep relationships up until now. I mean, we said earlier that the country with whom we probably share the most strategic alignment in terms of the landscape that we face would be Japan. Part of that landscape is that both of us are allies of America, and for both of us, our most important partner is America. That means that there actually has been a real history and record of us working closely together. But what we are announcing today gives expression to the fact that as three countries we now seek to do this in a more and increasing coordinated way. And that will be a benefit to our capability. We believe it will be a benefit to the collective security of the Indo-Pacific, and we believe it will make a significant contribution to the global rules-based order.
I certainly agree with what the Deputy Prime Minister has said. We don't have any announcements on hypersonics to offer today. I would point to the things that we are working on, both as a part of AUKUS and also as on a bilateral basis. You know that we're doing a number of things to develop capability with Australia and also with Japan bilaterally. We are in AUKUS Pillar 2. What that is all about is working together to leverage technology to provide real capability to the warfighter as quickly as we possibly can. And we're making progress in that area, and we expect that Japan will join AUKUS Pillar 2 at some point in a not-too-distant future to work on specific projects that have yet to be named. But again, there are just so many things that we can work together on and are working together on, whether it's quantum capability, whether it's CCA or what you would describe as unmanned teaming aircraft, and just a number of other things that include long-range strike and so many other things that I believe we're going to our work is going to pay significant dividends to the warfighter here going forward.
はい、先ほどお話したように北朝鮮のミサイルの攻撃、非常に能力が上がっておりまして、現実の脅威となってきております。こういった問題に対してはですね、我が国自身の努力のみならずですね、やはり同盟国や同志国との協力連携が必要でありまして、今後日米豪の間で戦略を連携しながらですね、共同の能力を高めていって実行していくと、そういう中でネットワーク化された防空ミサイル防衛アーキテクチャについてはミサイル脅威の対処の共同情報の共有の在り方などを検討することで協力をしていきたいと思いますが、また訓練面におきましては2026年にはオーストラリアで行うヒッチブラックにおける日米豪の間の F35、これの相互派遣を念頭にですね、今詳細を検討しておりまして、こういった豪州において日米豪また日豪などの共同訓練を行うということは日本の部隊の総合運用性また能力を高める上でですね、極めて重要であるというふうに認識しておりますので、今後米国および豪州とさらに検討を進めてまいりたいと思っております。
And finally, Tamura Naohiro of Yomiuri Shimbun.
I asked a question for Mr. Miles in Japanese, so please. オーストラリアの次のフリゲート艦についてお聞きします。4カ国のうち日本とドイツの案に絞り込まれたと現地で報道されていると承知しています。可能であれば現在の検討状況を教えてください。それとオーストラリア政府として次のフリゲート艦はどういった点を重視しているのか、最上型護衛艦の強化や日本への期待も合わせてお聞かせください。
At the beginning of this year, in response to a surface fleet review, we announced the future structure of our Navy's surface fleet, and that as part of that, there would be a general purpose frigate. And we wanted to bring a new general purpose frigate into operation as soon as possible within this decade, which is a very fast acquisition. So the first point in answer to your question is that what we are seeking in terms of acquiring a general purpose frigate is to have a very speedy acquisition. Because of that, what we did was name at that point a number of companies with a number of designs of ships that were currently in service, with the prospect of them being initially built overseas and then that build being transferred to Australia as a means by which we would be able to acquire an existing capability in the world quickly. As you say, we have down selected now to two companies who are providing 3 designs amongst those 2, but one of those is Mitsubishi Heavy Industries Megami class frigate, which is in service now. It's a very capable platform, and we will now work very closely with Mitsubishi Heavy Industries in terms of their bid. Our intention is to make a final decision in respect of this through the course of next year. So this has a little time to run, but not a lot of time, because at the heart of what we are seeking to do is to have a new, the first of those general purpose frigates actually in service in the 2020s. But we're obviously very impressed with the Megami class frigate and what Mitsubishi has presented so far. We were pleased to announce that they were part of the down selection, and we will be working closely with them going forward. I think that brings to an end the press conference. Can I again thank Lloyd and again for being here today. Thank you all for attending. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you.